Welcome back to the quest where unfortunately disaster has struck. Yes, unfortunately we've had a bit of a glitch in the quest. On Sunday I played through pre-season. It probably took me about 3 hours in total. I stepped away from the computer for a moment. I came back and we'd had a power cut. Had yours truly saved the progress he'd made? He had absolutely not. So it meant I had to play through it all again, all of which means I'm actually recording this episode just a couple of hours before it goes live and you get to see it. But that's not the problem. The problem is that when I played through it the first time, the board invested just shy of £2 million in the club to help with its running costs, which was very useful because we were well in the red. When I played through it the second time, of course, the board were not forthcoming. There was no investment. There was no helping out with the running costs, which meant that the funds we had available to strengthen the squad the second playthrough was nowhere near as generous as it was when we played through it the first time. It meant I've had to sell a couple of players just to try and improve our finances a little, and I'm not sure whether the transfer business that I've done is as strong as it would have been if we'd have had the backing of the board like we did before the dreaded cut. Not that that's shown so far. We've only played 2 games this season, but they've both been 5-1 wins. We kicked off the league campaign with a tie against Goritza, and we roared into life in this fixture. We scored in the 4th and the 10th and the 18th minute. We were 4-0 up after 29. They pulled one back just before the interval, but Llama scored his 3rd of the game shortly after half-time. And it was flip-flops and cigars for the rest of the game for our boys as we stroll to a beautiful 5-1 victory. You can see that the shape is pretty much settled as to what it was last season, but I think we've got players playing in more natural roles for it now, and we've tweaked some of the roles that the players are being asked to deploy in this formation, but that was a very good victory. And then we've also played the first leg of our Europa Conference League second round, I think, qualifier. We were handed what I thought was going to be a very tough tie against Swedish outfit Djurgården, but we were very good. We again raced into a 4-goal lead before letting them score one, but then we scored another one late on. One of our new players came off the bench and scored twice, those last 2 goals that you can see there. Plus, we've got some of our old favourites, our signings from when we first joined Lokomotiva, Daniek, Amar and Kierkegaard, all on the score sheet, and you can see it looks like we're playing pretty well. But we've brought you back for a biggie today. So far, since we joined Lokomotiva, you've not seen us in action against Croatia's most successful side over the last, 2-3 decades, Dinamo Zagreb. Well, we're going to put that right today. The game is on TV. We're going to go out there and see what kind of standard we are compared to the best side in the country before we take on Djurgårdens in that second leg, which hopefully will be a formality, but it is the away leg. And if we were to concede a couple, well, it might start to get a little bit more nerve-wracking. This game against Dinamo is going to be a biggie because they were champions by 6 points last season, but they've not had it all their own way. They lost the title the year before, won it the year before that, and then came second the year before that. So 2 of the last 4 seasons, they have not been champions. Will they get their second win of the season against us today? Well, that depends on how our new recruits and our old guard perform. So I managed to clear out some players, including some that I sold for a couple of £1 million. It gave us a bit of a transfer war chest, but we are now back in the red. We did not have anywhere near the funds available that we would have had if the board had cleared those debts for us. So we had to attack the transfer window with a strategy. The strategy, well, it changed throughout the transfer window. I wanted to try and get in as good a quality player as I could to really attack the Croatian title this season. See if we could break into the top 3, maybe even the top 2. That really wasn't going to happen when we had about £1.5 million, maybe just under £2 million to spend on transfers after I'd sold lots of players. So instead, I adopted a strategy based around trying to sign young domestic talent, some of it on loan with optional fees so that we can bring them in at the end of the season if they impress. It means we're going to go into the season with a very youthful squad. It also means that we're going to go into the season with a lot of homegrown players. And for the first time in living memory, I've been able to register a full squad of 25 for European competition, including lots of players who are under 21 and didn't even need registering. So that was an absolute treat. Of the notable departees, one of them was the Icelandic player Brynjolfur Williamson, who I let go for £2.3 million. He was a good player, he's got pretty good attributes, but he wasn't going to be in my starting 11, and that was more than the club had originally had invested by the board, so that was just too good an offer to turn down. I also let a youngster go, Faris Korsovic. He left for about £650,000. I let him go because I didn't really like his teamwork and work rate, and I didn't think he was really going to develop into a player that we would use. So again, I decided to cash in to clear the debts and also give us some money that we could spend on trying to strengthen our side. You can see that we've spent broadly the same as we've bought in, but not all of it has gone out straight away. Dragan Samardzic, for example, you'll see there is listed as us having spent 2.2 million on him. We only actually paid 1 million up front, and the rest is going out in installments or based on his appearances. So I guess we best get into the side and show you who we've bought in. The youth will continue from last season, where we started developing players like Kranjček, our own goalkeeper. He is now seems to be first choice for the Croatian under-21s. The aerial reach and the jumping reach are a little low, but otherwise he looks like a decent goalie for a 19-year-old. But we are just going to try and continue to blood him this season and hope he develops into a good goalkeeper. We're also going to have some of the signings that we made last season. Willy Kambwala is going to be our first choice defender. Babanya is going to continue to be the almost veteran now, patrolling the midfield. We had big offers for him come in during the transfer window of £2.5 million, but we decided to keep him. Of our signings from last season, Daniek's going to be in the team playing as our number 10. Ameyer is now going to be on the right wing playing as a conventional winger. He started the season pretty well. Old Tiny Chuck is also going to be a winger, this time just cutting outside on his stronger left foot, seeing whether we can get better performances out of him after I spent so much money on him. And Stanley Tucci, second, third top scorer in the league last season. He's going to lead the line for us, hopefully. He's going to be a source of goals. But elsewhere, we've brought in some new players to try and bolster our squad. So here's the first of them, our big signing, Dragan Samardzic. Enter the dragon as he walked through the front door. He could be worth potentially £4 million. Unfortunately, he's got a minimum fee release clause that's not that shy of that amount. He's very good physically. He is superb mentally. I mean, if we're going to try and go to a European final, those are probably good enough mentals for a player to appear in that kind of starting lineup. Technically, that's where we've got development to do. But as a fullback, I think he's going to be a pretty sound, solid player for us in that position. And over on the left, we've got almost a doppelganger, Zonomir Bozac. He's very, very similar. Excellent mentally, great physically. Improvements to make technically, but the tackling and the marking and the first touch are very, very good. This player is on loan from Rijeka, although we do have the option to buy them for £1.5 million should we want to, and should we be able to raise that money, and should he even want to come when it comes to it. We've got a similar deal in place for Fran Fibiancic. He is 6'3", but has got great jumping reach. Another one whose mentals are absolutely superb. And another one where we have a fee agreed if we can get him to agree to come later on down the line. In the midfield, we've done the same again with another young Croat, Krešimir Kavesic, who is valued at potentially £1.2 million. Another one where the mental aspect of their game is the strongest. And another one where we can bring them in for just shy of £700,000 should the player agree to join us. And I'm hoping all three of them get a lot of first team action and a part of a successful squad who potentially have a good little run in Europe. Then they might want to join us full time. The other signing that I made was a permanent one. And again, it was another central midfielder who we might see in action today. It's a 19-year-old Chilean, Camilo Reyes. Again, good mentals, but the physicals are also pretty good, including the natural fitness, something I do like in a central midfielder. And this time, although there are gaps technically, there is one standout attribute, and that is the passing of 17. So I do like the idea of developing Reyes so they can just sit in the middle of the park, spray passes to our wide men who are going to be crucial in this tactic that we've built. as they're going to deliver the balls into the box, backed up by a couple of attacking wing-backs who are going to try and supply crosses for Tucci and the on-rushing Danek, but feeding them the ball is going to be the job of the central midfielders, and Reyes might be the man that jumps into the centre of the park and does that for us. So let us know what you think of our transfer business. What do you think of the strategy of bringing in young Croats with optional fees agreed for the future? Which of our players do you think might be the strongest of the ones that we've bought in? We've also bought in another permanent player. This one was incredibly cheap. This is Milivoje Rasanda, a very quick striker, good dribbler, somebody who offers us something different up front than Stanley Tucci does, who's a target forward. And they've come off the bench and scored a couple of goals in European competition, and they were an absolute snip. We bought them from relegated Rudesh for just £5,000, and they're now worth potentially 1.8 million. They've got a good personality as well. They like to shoot from distance with long shots of 6. I'm not sure how keen I am on that. But again, that's another permanent player that we bought in to bolster the squad, along with lots of other players who've returned from loan spells out last season and are now back at the club, and I'm going to try and develop them. And it means that we have got an awful lot of players who have got this homegrown status next to them, and we're going to try and make our team youthful, full of vigour, full of energy, full of good mentals, and see how far it takes us this season, starting with a game against the biggest in the country. So I wouldn't necessarily say these games against Dinamo are a free hit. I'd dearly like to get some results out of them, but it doesn't look like Lokomotiva have beaten Dinamo in a league game over the last 3 seasons. So if we were to pick up anything, it would be a bonus. And if we were to be defeated, well, there would be no shame in it. But I am keen to see how our new look lineup gets on against such strong opponents. And I think our centre-half, Cambuala, has tried to dribble at a defender inside 5 minutes of the game, and we've won a penalty. It may well be Daniek that takes it. No, Stanley Tucci, who runs up, sends the goalkeeper the wrong way, and we are a goal up against the best team in Croatia, last season's champions, inside 5 minutes. For some reason, the Dinamo fans behind the goal have let off a flare to celebrate our penalty goal, and we are coming forward once more. He's the youngster on loan in central midfield, Kesovic. He feeds it to Chuk. That was a mistake because he's lost the ball, and they've had a clear sight of our goal inside 10 minutes and a good chance to equalise, and that was all a goal of our own making as Chuk gives the ball away. On 12.5 minutes, however, the unthinkable has happened. Aymar, a centre corner into the box, and Babanya has risen like an absolute Adonis. Like a wily old fox, the 29-year-old shows the youngsters how it's done by rising at the near post, thumping a header past their goalkeeper. We've only had 3 shots, fewer now than Dinamo, but 2 of ours have gone in, and we are looking pretty good in this game. I won't get complacent. It could all change later on in the match, but that's a strong start at least. And it does show 2 things that I'm quite interested to test out. Number 1, maybe we finally settled on our shape. We've got players in the 4-4-1-1, but we're playing with wingers now where they seem to be a little bit more comfortable, and it seems to be suiting them a little better. So that's good. But also some of these youngsters that we've brought in are equipping themselves well against very, very stern opponents. And we are coming forward again. Daniek feeds Aymar, who's had a great start to the season. And there is one of our youngsters, the loney Kesovic. They can have a little VAR review of it. I don't think he was offside. And I am correct. And we've raced to a 3-goal lead. And I'm not sure Dinamo will have been on the receiving end of a first half like this very often over the last few seasons. Aymar is involved once again. His goals and assists at the start of this season have been incredible since we switched him to just being a conventional right winger. You see there, he's playing in the number 10 pocket, even though he's a winger on attack. He still drifts inside and supplies balls like that. And we are now looking at half-time, having had no more shots than the opponents, but we've been ruthless. But they're coming forward right on the cusp of half-time, and they are into our box. And they have got one back. Josip Brekalo just draws them that little bit closer, and it was pretty easy for them. They just work the ball into our box without really being challenged. They just peel off our man, goes through a whole host of bodies, and Hraniec cannot get a hand on it, and we're not even done there. Into stoppage time, we've got a kickoff highlight as well. Vrankovic, who's come in for that expensive right back, because he was just struggling for a little fitness, I noticed, just before I led the team out today. So he's come in. We've got away with a wayward pass there. Ratnik, he pounces on the clearance and he's back on the ball now and he feeds it into midfield. And this could be 3-2 at half-time if we're not careful, because they've got a player racing through on goal. It takes a little nick off one of our players. It drifts behind for a corner, and we are lucky that the game is not 3-2 going into half-time, and it really should have been 3-0 if we'd have just seen the game out. We are at the break now, but I don't think this is a game that is done and dusted yet. So I'm expecting a bit of a response from Dinamo in this second half. In anticipation of that, I have made a couple of changes myself just to try and make it harder for them to attack us this game. So I've dropped the mentality down to balanced. I've also stopped the counter-attacking. Instead, I'm just asking the team to hold their shape. I'm asking them to be a little bit more disciplined in attack. People might scream, why are you making changes when you are 3-1 up? But I was just expecting a bit of a response from Dinamo that I wanted to try and deal with, but I don't think we have. I think Tiny Chuk has continued his run of terrible displays for us by giving them a penalty. And if we don't keep this one out, and we haven't, well, now we are in nervy territory, as Dinamo are going to fancy not just an equaliser, but maybe even going on to win this game. Petkovic strikes the ball past Hraniec. This was all Tiny Chuk's fault, as he gives away a penalty. He's playing a 6.5, and I think he might be one of the players that makes way, as well as Tucci, who's looking very tired. Okay, we've freshened the team up, but can we hold on? The match stats are now looking very much in Dinamo's favour. An XG of above 2, 11 shots, 13. Now we've managed just 7, but we are holding them without creating any highlights so far. We've now noticed that we've picked up an injury. Aymar has got a bit of a knock. Kvezovic could do with coming off, as could the defence of the bar. We're inside the last 10 minutes. They're going to be furious that they've not got an equaliser if this does turn into a 3-2 victory. But at the moment, with 3 minutes left and us just surrendering possession at will, that seems like a long shot. They've got the ball over on their left. We've had a little tackle that's not been successful, and Vincek is in. And we're looking for a linesman to save us, and he is not. And we have conceded an equaliser, 3-0 up to 3-3. And this shows what we're up against. This is the Croatian TNS, it would seem. They are going to be the club who I think are going to thwart us at every turn as we try to challenge them towards the top of the table. We're now nervous that we might not even get a point from this game as we give the ball away once more, and we have got to fully rotate our starting 11, I think, when we head out to Sweden. That comes with its challenges. This is a youthful lineup. When we put our strongest 11 out, it's going to be like a primary school team when we bring in the subs. And with 91 minutes on the clock, Dinamo have come forward again, and oh, you've seen it live. I like to bring you back for the tough games. From 3-0 up, we've gone 4-3 down, and it's not even like we've got unlucky. Dinamo have fully deserved this, and I think we've seen that our squad is perhaps not going to be as strong as Dinamo's this season. They've got plenty of players who are valued between £5 and £15 million. And they've got some dogged determination about them, because a great first half has been matched by a terrible second half as our players completely ran out of energy. And as you look at those match stats, you've got to wonder, how did we even score 3? So that was a painful little insight into how tough things are in Croatia. Just when you think that you are in a game, turns out no, 3-0 up is not enough of a lead to try and win a game against Dinamo. Hopefully tonight, things will be a little bit more plain sailing as we travel out to Sweden to take on Djurgårdens. This time, we don't have a 3-0 lead to try and throw away. We've got a 5-1 lead to try and throw away. Plus, well, we're playing a completely rotated starting 11, so lots of our backup players are all going to be in the lineup today. We're going to plead with them not to allow complacency to try and play a part in tonight's game. But if they get a couple of early ones after what just happened in the game against Dinamo, well, I'm going to be sweating live on camera. We're going to be in our red and black kits today. And, well, we are needing a win to set up a rather tricky tie in the next round. I think we're playing RZ Alkmaar or another tough opponent. So it's not going to be easy, even if we do get past Djurgårdens tonight, to make progress into the latter stages. We're coming forward pretty early, though. Here's Heidenreich, an Austrian centre-half, plays it to Merzinaj, who is the Albanian centre-half, who was first choice for us last season. And Kierkegaard comes forward early, blazes an effort way over the bar, but we've made a sprightly little start. 5 shots, 3 on target. We've got a long throw that we send into the near post. And then, well, we've sent it all the way back to our defence again. But we've created a little opening. It might be offside, I think. But we've looked dangerous inside the first 8 minutes here. So this one's not going to count. I think they're going to chalk this one off. Indeed, they have. But we worked it well. We created some good gaps over there on the left. And he's only gone a little bit too early. It was actually the player in the centre that was further offside. So we've shown that we can be a threat on the night. 6 shots, 3 on target. And we are looking pretty good. Djurgården have not troubled us yet. The closer we get to half-time without conceding, the more confident I am that we might make progress, especially when your 6 foot, I don't know what he is, 6'5" left back comes forward and thumps a header past the Swedish goalkeeper. In fact, it's Robert Lewandowski in goal, so he's not Swedish at all. 9 shots now, and with 6-1 on the scoreboard, even I am semi-confident that we might take this to extra time. Djurgården still haven't troubled us yet. We're looking good. We're into the second half now, and the game really has slowed down. We've not had a highlight since the goal. We've had Reyes, our Chilean central midfielder, go off injured. Otherwise, that's the only bit of action that we've had. And as we race through to 72 minutes, I think I'm just going to throw all of our subs on and see if we can get to the end of the game and cruise into the next round. And that looks like exactly what we might be doing. Djurgården have now had more shots on target than we have. They're very accurate, these Swedes. 6 shots, 6 on target. We've had 22 to get 6 on target now, but we've not had a single highlight since the goal. And 6-1 is a pretty good aggregate victory. And now we can see who we're going to have in those next qualifying rounds. So unfortunately, that injury that Reyes suffered in that game was quite a nasty one. He's going to be out for 7 weeks. We get £85,000 for making it through that qualifying round. And we've set up a tie against Portuguese opponents. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. What I will do is find out where they placed last season and how they did. They were 4th, ahead of Sporting. That means they must be a fairly decent outfit. It is not going to be easy to make progress against them, but we will try our very best. I think what we will do is play the first leg off camera, and we'll come back for that second leg to see if we can go around further and earn some extra revenue.